Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast for PR pros and marketers who work for themselves. I am Michelle Kane. My company is Voice Matters, and I am here as ever with my wonderful co host, first podcast of 2022 with Karen Swim. How are you, Karen?
Hey, Michelle. I feel like I sort of limped into 2022, but that's okay. Um,
Hey, don't that whole energy burst of that intro, don't let it fool you. I am limping right along with you.
yeah. Good morning, Trip. Yeah, I really
Chef.
did.
Yeah,
I'm put it together. I might have to have a do-over into the new year in February when I'm feeling more like myself. But we do want to wish you, Chip, and all of our viewers out there, Happy New Year. We're so thankful for you spending time with us in this
yeah.
brand new year. We're so thankful for your support from the past year, and we hope to just bring you great content this year and have a good time.
That is the goal because, work is work, but you have to have fun while you're doing it for the most part. There are times when it's not. But today we want to talk about throwing out the rule book. Well, not entirely,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
I mean, we're going to keep the Oxford comma, but we're just going to riff on some of the rules of PR that we might still adhere to, and it's like, why? Work is changing, the world is changing. It used to be, Friday afternoon was always the news dump, and
yeah,
you never pitched on a Friday or something like that. And now it's like, attention is attention. So whenever a reporter sees something, they see it. So
yeah.
don't don't, don't fence yourself in all these ways that maybe you once
Yeah.
did.
I know, sometimes we make fun of younger generations, particularly in a work setting when they
Mm,
come into, a position, or even, if you're working with somebody from a younger generation and they question things.
yeah.
Um, but I think that in 2022, it's something that we should, whatever your generation, whatever your age, it's something that we all need to adopt a little bit more, because we get stuck in following these rules that really aren't rules. Like, it's a rule that you don't walk on a red light. It's not a rule that you have to send out a press release only on 3 days of the week. That's not
Right.
a rule. Now, there's a difference between hard and fast rules, and then things that we've practices that we've adopted from wisdom. So we may have stats and data that show what's more effective. Understand that, but question that. Don't just follow something just because everybody said not to do it this way, or because you've been doing it this way 100 years. I mean, I think about, newswire services. There are newer newswire services that are challenging the status quo because we just accepted that this is the way that it's always done, that you can only have 400 words, and then after that you get charged per word, and we just accepted that that's how it works. But then other services are like, yeah, that's stupid because we don't pay more for that, so why should we charge more? It doesn't matter if you have 400, 500, or 1500 words. So I think that we should, the way that we innovate and the way that we can break through and streamline processes or create new ways of doing things is by not just doing stuff the same old way. You get stale.
Mm,
And even if you keep a process, at least understand why you're doing it in a particular way. Question, even if that's sitting with yourself and going, so why do I do
yeah.
this bad? You
Yeah. I
know,
mean, they always say and one of the main enemies to progress is to just say, well, we always do it that way. Well,
yeah.
I mean, I keep that in the back of my mind always, of in anything I do. Okay, are we stuck in our ways in this area, that area? So, as you do start fresh, a new year is
Yeah.
always a great time to, just take stock in your process, even your processes for your own business.
Yeah.
Oh, just because you always, okay, here's an example. I love my little folders and my files, but, slowly, and it's been slower than I like to say, I still keep the folders. 5 years ago, I'd do the great switch over, year to year and box things up, and now I'm thinking, do I really ever look at those files? No. I
Yeah,
am 98% digital. What is wrong with you? Why do you have these folders around? So, even
yeah,
things like that, sit back and say, "Okay, how are you really living your life?" And it's funny the little examples that come into your life that bring that about. The first time I ever leased a car, I was always a buyer. I come from a car buying family and we buy our cars, but
yeah,
I knew after a few rounds, my practice was, yeah, I paid it off. I don't want the surprises. Let's get a new payment and a new warranty. And then the salesperson I was working with, bless him, he's like, I said, well, I want to own it. And he goes, you don't own it now. I said, oh, shut up. Yeah, you're right. But it's things like that, moments like that that do
yeah,
make you go, yeah, you know what? Why am
yeah.
I doing it this way? That's silly.
And I think the lessons of the past 2 years is that the world has changed. And so sometimes the things that we've been doing the same exact way for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, that was fine,
Right.
but life is different. It's kinda like, we no longer put 2 spaces after a period, and
Too
we
right.
don't do that anymore because we don't need to, because
Right.
we are not dealing with the typefaces and the same instances. And so we live in this digital world that quickly over the past 2 years has become more and more
Yeah.
virtual, remote, hybrid. So if you're still doing things in the same way, you might be missing out that worked last season, but it may not work for this season. And so, I love what Chip says, always do it that way is the worst answer to why. I
Yeah.
I completely agree with that. And I think rather than, I'm not a fan of resolutions. I am a fan of having a vision for your year and documenting the way that you want your year to look and the outcomes that you'd like to achieve.
Right.
But I think that even better than resolutions, which can sometimes feel just like something, it just doesn't feel tangible enough to me and meaningful enough.
Yeah.
Treat yourself like you're brand new to everything in your
Mhm.
life. Look at things with fresh eyes and begin to question yourself like, so why am I still doing this like this? And if it still
Yeah.
works and it still makes sense, at least you now have answered that question. I don't change things for the sake of change, but sometimes we have like these things that people do. Like, what, I always hear people go, "Oh, you shouldn't pitch the media on a holiday, or during the last part of the year. Everybody's gone." Well, who said everybody's gone?
Mm.
People would say, "Don't pitch on the weekend." You know what? I have a few reporters that weekends are really the best time to pitch them, and I have the
Mhm.
best conversations with them 6 o'clock on a Sunday. But if I
Mhm.
listen to everybody else and their rules, I would never even try something different because everybody says, "Oh, you can't do that."
Yeah.
Well, really?
Yeah.
Where's that rule book at? Where Show
Oh,
me. Where is
yeah,
it
I
written?
don't I
Never,
don't have a
ever.
copy of that. I must have filed it with my paper files 5 years ago. No, you're you're so right. I mean, the pressure, well, I don't even feel it as pressure anymore. I don't really care resolutions. To me, it's always I translate that in my mind of, "Oh, you mean setting myself up for self-disappointment? No, thank you." But I like to reevaluate, and I even
Yeah,
I don't have it nailed by January 1st, but I do like to do the word of the year or the three-word practice. How do you want to feel in the new year, and what are the ways that will get you there? Um, I think that's a much more flexible, functional way to
yeah,
approach a fresh start, no matter when that is. And you know what? You can do that every quarter. You can do that every month because guess what? You own your business and you can do what you want.
yeah,
So, you have that freedom, which is wonderful. So, if something's not working for you and you want to just sit back and take, even if it's an hour, you don't have to take a whole day. Of course you can. That would be awesome. We often recommend, if you've had an eye on a nice hotel that's open locally or something, have a business retreat. Or, or just
yeah,
take a walk, get outside and just try and think, okay, how am I approaching this year? Am I doing rote things even with my clients? Is it okay, this is the time when I ask you this? And How are they feeling about that? Are they thinking,
Yeah.
"Ugh, here she is again with the same old, same old?"
Yeah.
Just always be reviewing and evaluating.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of business retreats, and that can actually happen in your own home too. So you
Yeah.
don't going away takes you outside of your normal. I have a girlfriend that, every single year she spends a weekend in a hotel, a really nice hotel by herself, and
Mhm.
it's her writing retreat. She's a professional writer. I think that that's a great idea for, anyone, no
Yeah,
matter if you're, a solo or, if you work in-house at a company. I think it's a good idea to just set aside some time for just you to, you know, create
mhm.
the reality that you want to have, and being out of your normal environment is helpful because you're free of distractions and it's just
Yeah,
about you. Carry a notebook or if you prefer to type it out. But I highly recommend just, typing out like, what do you want each day to look like? What do
mhm,
you want to accomplish from your work with clients? Because
mhm.
I think for particularly us as solos, we're not following a job description here. And
Right.
we're not working towards a performance evaluation in the traditional sense. So you want to be satisfied, but I think we all want to do great work. And how do you do your best work? You have to plan for that. You have to
Yeah,
create that reality for yourself.
right.
And I love what you said about just looking at even the way you're doing things with clients. There's a lot of things that I'm tweaking this year and I started to tweak last year because I just don't agree that we have to just follow this script year after year after year. I think we should always be looking for ways to push the boundaries and to be innovative. I mean, we're
Yeah,
solos. And unlike other people, we're not boxed in. And so my message from all of this is don't allow yourself to be limited by somebody else's rules because they're
right.
not really rules that we all have to follow. And what may work for some people may not work for you. So you have to
Right.
adapt things to your style of work, your workflow, your personality, the clients that you serve. There's a lot of gray areas and nuances in here and how we apply these things to how we live and work.
Oh, completely. I completely agree. And that can even translate into, other aspects of your work life, just because well, let's bring it back to comparison, right? Because how often do we get stuck in that mindset? Sometimes,
Yeah,
especially as solos, you're sitting here at your computer alone and you say, "Oh, look what that person just achieved," or "Oh, they're doing that way? Oh dear. Well, maybe what I'm doing is wrong." And, you know, not to say it's black and white, yeah, there might be some things you can glean or learn, but don't hold yourself to someone else's standard of what works for them necessarily. Now, there will always be best practices. There will always be things like, no, don't text somebody at 4 a.m.
true. That I
unless it's death or fire. But, within reason,
good point. But I mean,
but
even that rule about sort of the hours, and this can apply to the hours that you work too.
yeah,
I, time is pretty
fluid.
It so yeah, it is. There's a fluidity to the way that we work now. So
Yeah,
some people really are early risers and they work early. And sometimes through interactions with people, you get to know that.
yeah,
Working across time zones, we work
yeah,
with people in multiple time zones now, especially
right,
with the rise of digital nomadism and remote work. And so who said that you have to work 8 to 5 Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday? Who told you that? I
right.
mean, those, companies make rules for their employees, but you're a company too, so you can make your own rules. So
Mhm.
if that doesn't work for you, just don't do it. I
Right.
don't I starting work at 8 o'clock would make me hateful. It just I'm sorry. I would want to throw shoes at people. Kidding me?
I
And it's not that I'm not necessarily awake, it's just that I don't wanna be working that early. I'm doing other things in the
yeah,
morning, so
yeah, waking up my
don't
brain for one thing, and yeah, and there's this beautiful thing called, you can schedule emails if you wanna keep the boundaries of that kind of if you wanna keep,
yeah.
let's say, business hours with your technology, of course, we know with time zones, that's different.
Yeah,
I mean, you can even schedule text messages and your emails.
Yeah,
So, because sometimes that can communicate to a client who thinks, oh, it's okay to, reach them. But it's going to be particular to every person and even every client relationship. Some clients you don't mind. Oh, sure, whenever, or if the work calls for it, yeah. I want to know that right away. We need to deal with this right away. And other things, no, no, no. So, I mean, and we all know this intrinsically. I think sometimes as I think we talk about this a lot on this podcast. Sometimes you need to hear permission from someone else. So we're giving you permission
yeah.
to, adapt as you need that fits your business best, that helps you succeed in the best way that's right for you.
I think we're at some point soon this year we're gonna start doing hack shows. We're gonna show you some hacks so that some productivity hacks and email is gonna be at the top of the list. But
Yeah.
I would love to draw your attention to our favorite friend Chip Griffin, who also is
Yeah.
one of our favorite guests, and he'll be on this year because I'm gonna beg. Um, this if you steal this tip right here, it will transform your life, I promise you. Email when it works for you. I
Yeah.
don't know why people get so freaked out about email.
Yeah.
They, they really it's as if you feel like people are watching you and breathing over your shoulder, forcing you to respond immediately. You don't have to do that. Nobody is forcing you to read your inbound mails as soon as you send them. Now, I know for us as PR people, probably we primed ourselves to respond quickly because we all wish that reporters would do that with us.
True.
But here's and I said this to a colleague last year because we have one client and they were middle of the night workers. And I said, I see those emails. I see the emails after 6 because sometimes I'm, on a digital device and, it pops up. I see them, I do not respond to them. I do
Right.
because I'm not working, and I realize that they're working at a time that feels right for them. So they're
Right.
getting things done in a time that's convenient. This is probably the only quiet part of their day that they have to get things off of their list.
Right.
But just because they're working doesn't mean that I have to work at that time too. I'm not forced to do that, so I just don't. I let
Right.
stuff go.
Right.
And the morning when I'm working again. Vice versa, I may email something at a time that I'm not expecting an immediate answer. If it's something that's really immediate, I'm not going to choose email as the communication vehicle. So if you can just adapt this, it's going to take away a lot of stress and anxiety. And if we can understand that, especially now, none of us are really on the same kind of work schedule.
Right.
We really are not. We're all over the map. And in the same way that if you are an Eastern time zone person, you're not going to schedule a meeting with somebody on the West Coast at 5 a.m. their time. So
Right.
why would you expect them to answer emails? Hopefully they're still in bed or they're up doing something for themselves, like working out or something else that's not work. But just keep that in mind. Email is not this spy system where, somebody's going to whack you on the head if you don't respond
Yeah.
in 10 minutes. In
Yeah.
fact, I think it's a great idea to set an email policy for yourself and you can
Mhm.
communicate that to clients when you onboard. I do
Yeah.
that like, hey, we don't work nights and weekends. So if it's
Right.
an emergency, here's how you can get a hold of us. I just tell them,
Right.
we don't work nights and weekends. We're going to respond to your email during the workday, during our workday, and I think that that's reasonable. And again, just don't be afraid to set up these things and take yourself out of that because if you're sitting all day responding to emails, it is the biggest freaking time suck of life.
It's so true. It's so true. And, I mean, for myself, I chose probably more than a few years ago just to remove the email notifications from my mobile devices because it was too compelling. I had this compulsion, or even if I would see them, it would tip me off to what it was, and that would put my brain too much in work mode. I would say, "Nope, no, you're not working now. So okay, we can't have these notifications because then I'm too inclined because I like what I do, but you have to watch that doesn't just like grind you away of like, oh, okay, no, 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 not looking now, la 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 la, and yeah, it's like pick up the phone if you really need me. You know where to find me.
Yeah.
You will, no doubt, if it's something incredibly urgent, that really needs attention now, or, even if it's hey, can you do me a favor and look at this? Yeah, of course. Of course.
Yeah. And you'll find that, I mean, I don't over the course of a year, I barely have any of those life's on fire, and
Right.
I do some crisis work as well.
Yeah.
So, it's rare. Like,
Yeah.
it just it people
Yeah.
appreciate those boundaries. They want you to respect their boundaries too.
Yeah.
It's up to you to set them. And
Yeah.
then here's the other key, make sure that you communicate them. I mean, it's
Yes.
about letting people know. I was listening to this radio show yesterday, and, she reminded everybody she's a career coach, and she talked about how we apply these rules to, or best practices, and, things that we do to nurture relationships in our personal life, but we forget work is a relationship too. And
Right.
so, the same way in your personal life that we all know that communication is so key to having a great relationship, that's key in your work relationships as well. You have to
Absolutely.
communicate your needs. We are not, I think we just get this wrong, and we see ourselves in this role of just being forced to do everything because we have a contract and someone's paying us. No, you really don't. That's not the hallmark of a great relationship. A great relationship is give and take. It's good communication. It's sharing what you need to get your
Mhm.
job done and to be at your very best.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, just and I think that's
Tail.
another you can break. You don't have to do everything somebody said you have to do everything.
Right, right, and even what you're saying about, the tyranny of email, 99.9% of the time, I can vouch, I do it to myself. It's it's not my clients calling on me of, "Why didn't you answer me yet? Why isn't that done?" That's in my head. The tyranny is in my head. And, I've shared before how, yes, is that an issue when it becomes a negative reinforcement? Yes. So, something to work on. And sometimes that does keep you spurred when you're tired or not motivated, rather than, hey, maybe I should just honor the fact that I'm tired and not motivated and take a couple hours off. Oh, there's an idea. Guess what? The work will still be there. And I think for many of us who enjoy longer relationships with our clients, we kind of get to know the ebb and flow, and you then have that track record of credibility. Not to say I'm just gonna slack off because I can, but they know you'll get the job done, so you don't have to be like overperforming all the time.
And I think don't start a new relationship like that.
Right.
You just
100%.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you're setting a bar that you're not gonna be able to sustain. So I think that you
Right.
wanna be realistic. For
Yeah.
some people, we have this idea of having a bonding hit within the first 30 days. I say, do like, don't pull out all of the stops early on, because then they're gonna think that they're gonna get all the stops all of the time. So you wanna do great work, but you also wanna be strategic and smart about how you roll out and how you ramp up, because you
Yeah.
don't, again, wanna set this unrealistic expectation that, "Oh, we got you 15 hits in the first month. The
Yeah.
next month is gonna come. Are they
Yeah.
now they're gonna want 20."
Yeah.
And is that really realistic? And I'm not saying that you should serve your clients less. I'm just
Right.
saying be smart about your efforts and your priorities, and, setting the right expectations, because you do want to go the long haul.
Yeah.
And
That's the key.
yeah,
Yeah, it's managing expectations, setting them, managing them, being realistic about them, and same thing with boundaries. I had a conversation with a prospect yesterday, and someone I've known for a long time, and they have a new book coming out, and it's like, okay, just let's couch this in. If we do work together, it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint. It's not going to be, we'll get you all this amazing coverage, because even if someone down the line, an outlet loves it, they may not love it right away just because we want them to. And, that can be tough, even when they 100% believe in you. They're still writing that check of like, "All right, I didn't get anything," but, you just have to have those conversations with them.
I love
Ha, ha,
this.
ha.
Don't serve them less, but if you're over delivering, make it clear. And
Yeah,
I that because
Yes.
Chip is absolutely right. People will not remember what you said in the beginning.
True.
They really won't. I mean, we go through an onboarding process, we have a document, we share things, we have a kickoff meeting, but we also have to continue to reinforce those expectations month after month after month. Um, Not because we have terrible clients, but because we want to make sure that we're always aligned and that
Yeah.
um, we're not going off course because people do forget. They're busy too. We don't expect them to remember everything that we talked about. So we keep it front of mind. Like, okay, we
Yeah.
talked about this.
Mhm.
Here's what we're working on this month. Does this still work for you? Here's what we're aiming for. Always set those measurable objectives that are meaningful to your clients
Yeah.
and communicate that. That is a role that I think that we should all follow because you have that's a key part of our role is setting and managing expectations and owning it if you don't hit those expectations.
Yeah.
Don't be
Exactly.
afraid to say, you know what? We said, here's what we were aiming for. We didn't hit it. Here's why. Here's what we're going to change. Here's what we're going to tweak. Don't be afraid to say that you missed the mark. It happens. And
Right.
honestly, if you're being innovative and creative, failure is a part of the formula. And you need to
Yeah.
have that built into your client agreements. You shouldn't be expected to be 120% perfect because you're setting yourself up for failure, honey. I'm sorry, but you are.
No, that's so true, and sometimes you may think that the message has been nailed 100%, and as you pitch it or as you try to promote something, you might think, "You know what?
No
Let's take
kidding.
it this direction,"
Yeah.
and that's fine too, and that's the wonderful thing about working with a company of our sizes, whether it's a solo or a
Yeah.
small agency, because we can pivot. It's like, "Oh, you know what? Let's try this message point, or let's try this tactic. Let's see what happens." It seems that that's being received better. Mhm.
That's gonna be another great topic later in the year because we get a lot of questions around, pivoting and setting messaging, and so we'll help you out with some messaging for different types of situations. I mean,
Yeah.
this comes up with in terms of contracts and how do I respond to
Mm.
do a podcast on that too to help you
Yeah.
out with that as well. And I don't know, we might be able to entice a special guest to join us
Mm.
for one of these many great topics, somebody who's very smart, whose first name starts with C and his last name starts with G. I don't know. We'll see.
Chip Griffin, who we name check him a lot because he is such a loyal follower of our podcast, especially when we go live here on YouTube. So, check him out too. He has the Small Agency Growth Alliance, aka Saga, which is a wonderful resource. So we love all of these symbiotic relationships that we have
Yeah, we do.
with each other. So, and we love that you spend time with us every week, or maybe you catch up in bunches. However you listen, we are grateful. And if you get value out of this, please share it around. And until next time, thanks for joining us on Not Solo Life.